Ladies and gentlemen, are we ready?
Larry.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring the Planning Commission meeting for March 1st to order. If we could start off by determination of a quorum, please.
Larry Chesney.
Present.
Sarah Savilicek. Here. Francine Donchik.
Here.
Michael Flick
Here.
is present in chambers. Kate Nelson.
Here.
Larry Payton. Oh, I just saw him join via Zoom. We'll come back to him. Pat Phillips.
Here.
We'll just give Larry a moment to join back in. And Larry Payton, are you here?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, ladies. Ms. Nelson, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Before we go any further, I just want to let everybody know that we are allowing this meeting via Zoom. So I just usually read a Zoom statement. Anyone wishing to call into Zoom, the call number is 1-669-900-9128, and the meeting ID is 842-7265-9460. And you press pound. Any participants wishing to speak via Zoom shall sign into Zoom with their first and last names, and identify themselves with their first and last names when they're called upon. If you are a member of the public and you wish to speak, then please only click the raise hand prompt symbol during the public comment portion of the item you wish to speak to. You will only be called upon to speak during the public comment periods. Any panelists on Zoom should mute their mics until they are ready to speak. If anyone is having difficulty hearing the audio through Zoom, it may be helpful to use earbuds. Thank you very much. So next we will go on. If Ms. Gustin, if we could get the ethics law announcement, please.
Am I on? Yep, okay. Commissioners are reminded that if with respect to any matter or any person coming before the commission today, number 1, you've received a gift or loan. Number 2, you have a pecuniary interest. Number 3, you have a commitment in a private capacity, such as a family, employment, business, or similar relationship. Or number 4, you've provided representation or counseling before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter that's being considered here today. Please disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. And furthermore, please abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it's clear that the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Commissioners are also reminded that under the Planning Commission rules, if you've had any contact outside this meeting with any persons interested in a matter coming before the commission today, please disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gustafson. Secretary Lloyd, if we could get the appeal procedure, please.
Of course. Most decisions rendered by the Planning Commission are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you are aggrieved and you disagree with the decision of the Planning Commission and you want to appeal its action, you may do so in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is reduced to writing, filed with the Secretary of the Planning Commission, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and application fee.
Thank you, Secretary Lloyd. Next is public comment, and I just want to read, comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the agenda. However, action may not be taken on any matter raised during the public comment period until the matter is specifically listed on an agenda as an action item. Comments are to be made to the Planning Commission as a whole. Ladies, is there any public comment either via Zoom or in chambers at this time?
Yes, in chambers, I have Thomas Daly.
Thank you, Chairwoman and Commissioners. For the record, I am Tom Daly from the Estates of Mount Rose, and as a matter of full disclosure, a Republican candidate for the Nevada Assembly representing District 26. I ask that my comments tonight be included in the formal record of this proceeding. I apologize for not being able to stay for all the agenda tonight, and I wish to comment on agenda item number 5. On the matter of the Southwest Truckee Meadows area plan to allow low-density LDS 2 as a zoning change, the prevailing zone in most of the areas designated is 1 house per acre. The proposal before you would increase that to 2 houses per acre. There are a host of unanswered questions in the staff report as to the impact of this proposal. The staff report is devoid of any mention of the impact of such a zoning change on traffic, schools, public safety, and sewer services, not to mention the character of the neighborhood. Doubling the density of development will adversely affect each of these issues. Is there any commitment by Reno, Washoe County, the RTC, the Washoe County School District, the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, and REMSA to match their ability to provide more services to this increase in density for same? I see none in the staff report. As an example, the Morton's Ranch development in Verdi, both the Reno Planning Commission, Reno City Planning Commission, and the Reno City Council denied the tentative map as the Reno City Fire Department could not reach that area within their approved response times. Reno does not have the resources to build or staff another fire station in that area. Additionally, the Reno Fire Department has only 1 station south of the McCarran Loop. But worse, the Reno Fire Department is now routinely closing 1 or more fire stations or units therein 2 days out of 3, beginning in July of 2021 and through December 31, 2021, based on public records requests that I have received, and be happy to provide that to you for the record. Truckee Meadows Fire has on more than one occasion testified that they lack the sufficient resources to serve existing demands for services. Washoe County has expanded its sewer capacity, but only to address demands prior to this issue. I urge you to return this matter to the staff for further analysis before you move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in chambers or on Zoom at this time, ladies?
Madam Chair, I do have a hand raised via Zoom. Paul, I'm going to allow you to speak. If you could please unmute and state your first and last name for the record.
First name Paul, last name Junkie, Juhnke, and I'm a homeowner. Go ahead.
You have the floor, sir.
My wife and I are a homeowner. We're homeowners on Ventana Parkway, and there's a proposed development that would take advantage of this zoning change that's down the street from us. It's between us and the city. So if this zoning change goes from 1 house per acre to 2 homes per acre, we're going to be saddled with added traffic at a choke point where they want to come into the traffic circle at the top of Zolezi at the base of Ventana Parkway. And my comment to the Planning and Zoning Commission is that those people knew when they built the church, the Reno Christian Fellowship Church, they knew what the zoning was when they bought the property and built there. And also the person who's donating land to the church, they also knew the zoning of what they had and what they were donating to the church. And now it's the church wants to make more money by getting it rezoned to 2 homes per acre instead of 1. And the other thing about this issue is all of us homeowners up here in Southwest Vistas, we also knew what the zoning was when we bought our properties. It was 1 house per acre. And we wanted it that way. That's why we bought and paid for the homes we have. And now all of a sudden, because somebody wants to make some more money on one little development there that was never planned or zoned for that sort of thing, they want to make a little more money at it. All of a sudden, the rest of us are getting shortchanged, where we would get shortchanged by this change in zoning, because what we bought and paid for is proposed to be taken away from us by people in the neighborhood who also knew what the rules were when they bought. And that's my comment to the commission, is that once you set up zoning, it should never change, because we bought and paid for it. And I'd like to leave that thought with you, and I'd like to know how we would be compensated. I think the planning and zoning, in addition to all the issues that the previous speaker mentioned, the planning and zoning should take up the issue of how we're going to get compensated for the devaluing of our properties that we've already bought and paid for and developed up in this area. That's an issue that's very significant and should be addressed. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Ladies, anyone else at this time?
I have Lars Jensen via Zoom. I'm going to allow you to speak. If you could unmute and state your first and last name for the record.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Lars Jensen. I live in the Thomas Creek Road, and I couldn't agree more with the previous commenter. I think we zone land so potential buyers of the land knows what they're buying before they buy, and this is fair to everybody. Zoning is a fundamental factor when people purchase land. If zoning is suddenly and arbitrarily changed, then this undermines the trust between the public and the county elected officials. Certainly, any zoning change, at a minimum, must serve the public good. And the public good cannot be measured by developer interest or city-county density or growth rates. One cannot argue that undermining the terms under which people moved to the county and purchased land here 20 or 30 years ago in order to attract people to the county today serves the public good. Rather, that's would be a continuous spiral of deception. In summary, yes, zoning changes may in rare circumstances occur, but only when they serve the public good. The zoning change proposed here does not live up to this standard, so we must oppose it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ladies. Anyone else at this time?
I have Steve with a hand raised via Zoom. I'm going to allow you to speak. If you could state your first and last name for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Steve Erger, E-R-G-E-R, and I live just to the north and west of Reno Christian Fellowship. And I think there's a lot of people that are very interested in what's going on here. We had already gone through this process one time with the Citizens Advisory Board. At that time, they had a gentleman from the Planning Commission, and they asked specifically if this was the zoning change was they were able to do that, and he stated it would be very, very difficult to do if at all. So the Citizens Advisory Board voted unanimously to deny the request. Somehow it then went on to the Planning Commission, and the same thing. The Planning Commission, you people, had reviewed the request to increase it. At that point, they were looking for 3 houses per acre, I believe, and they had a lot of pushback from the community. And at that time, from what I understand, is that the Planning Commission voted unanimously to deny the request. And it still went on to the County Board of Commissioners, and they reviewed the request. Same thing. It was a unanimous decision to deny the request. In the meantime, we had, the community had gotten together and collected, I believe, 500 signatures against the proposal. The church, I think they had some of their flock, from all over the city, express an interest in that it would be good for the church because it's good for the kids. I think they're planning on, the word is that they're planning on expanding the school, which again increases traffic, which has been mentioned several times already today. Then the next thing we hear is that there's a lawsuit against the county commissioners, or one or several of them, for various reasons. And then out of the blue comes this new request to change the master plan. It makes one wonder what is going on here, because they've been denied 3 different times unanimously, and now I don't know if it's the developer or the greedy pastor that are what's going on, but it makes you wonder if there's any backroom plans that are going on that don't fit what the community really wants. I'm opposed to it. My wife's opposed to it. Everyone in this community is opposed to this, except for the pastor of the church. So that's my comments. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have Cheryl Jordan with a hand raised on Zoom. If you could please unmute, state your first and last name for the record.
Cheryl Jordan.
You have the floor.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, these previous speakers are all addressing, I believe, item 8B on the agenda this evening, which, as Steve spoke to, is our opposition to this regulatory zoning amendment, master plan amendment, to add low-density suburban LDS2 to certain suburban areas. The areas that were listed were many areas out here in the county, including the area by the Reno Christian Fellowship Church, the West Truckee Meadows, the Foothill, the Thomas Creek, the Lower Galena. All of those areas are mentioned as part of this master plan amendment change. The residents and homeowners are adamantly opposed to this zoning amendment. As Steve mentioned, we presented signatures in the past. Again, this change is not needed to support growth out here. We have LDS1, which is, again, to revisit what the first person spoke about, is that's the reason we bought out in this area, and we want to preserve it. It is about traffic. It is about schools. It is about public safety, and it is about the character of the neighborhood. I agree that the staff report does not have any of that consideration in it. It's not about siding with developers and the financial gain to be achieved by building more houses per acre. It is about doing what is right for the neighbors and the homeowners who live out in the county and who lived out in this area for years and want to preserve this area as it was intended to be. So keeping the consistent zoning with the surrounding properties of LDS1 is what we are in favor of. Many of our homeowners have sent in emails to Julie Olander, and I hope that all those were entered into the record as well. Again, we are opposed to this master plan zoning amendment referenced in item 8B tonight. That's all I have now, and please respect the community and the character of our neighborhoods and the way it was intended to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Ken Green with a hand raised via Zoom. If you could please unmute and state your first and last name for the record.
Yes, Ken Green.
You have the floor, sir.
Very good, thank you. So to echo some of what has just been said, and just for my own clarification or edification, and in specific regards to item B, the master plan amendment, and as a previous commenter indicated, it dovetails with a number of character management areas to include Thomas Creek. And as part of this open discussion, I want to ask a question specifically as it relates to the Thomas Creek SCMA and the RCF property, and what a previous commenter indicated with regard to prior attempts to develop that property into something that it's not currently zoned for. And so I have a question for the commissioners, and that is, and if you can answer it right now, that'd be great. Otherwise, it's recorded, and I'm hoping that it will come up at some point in the future should this lawsuit and the proposed development of the 12.55 acres adjacent to RCF move forward. Anyway, the question is, what is the relationship, either direct or indirect, between the master plan amendment referenced in the agenda here and the RCF property? And if that's something you can answer now, that'd be fantastic. If it's not, I guess we'll pick it up when we meet talking about the development of that property. That's all I have. I appreciate your time and your consideration. And just for the record, I am also opposed to the master plan amendment, item B. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Bernice T. I'm going to allow you to speak. If you could please unmute and state your first and last name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Bernice Taylor. I live in Southwest Vistas, the top of Zalesi. I am very much opposed to this as a whole. I would like to see you separate them. The SCMA is different for Thomas Creek than it is for, say, Arrow Creek or Mount Rose Corridor or the other foothill. Some of the areas have already been developed completely. I think this should be a separate item, that you should take each SCMA as a whole, one at a time, and not lump it all together. I agree with everyone that has commented before. I am mainly concerned about the RCF church. That's been denied, I don't know how many times, and yet you guys would approve this. We have no leg as homeowners to stand on, and that is not right. It's like they're going behind a sneaky way to get into what they want to get more money for. I highly disapprove of this whole thing, and you bring it back up. I'd be in favor of some of the other SCMAs, but not the Thomas Creek. This is my opposition. I also did send an email. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have Marion Nant. I'm going to allow you to speak. If you could please unmute and state your first and last name. We can hear you.
My name is Marion Ganant, spelled G-N-A-N-D-T. I live on Thomas Creek Road near Zalesi, and I am against higher density housing, and I agree with everybody else. I think the main reason is environmental, is that we are going to run out of water, maybe not this year or the next year, but very soon. And it's really unfair to have people come into our community and then, have to say, we don't have enough water for you. And I think it is coming, and it's coming very soon. The other thing is that I think that from what I've heard, a lot of our houses are being bought by investors and not by, my children have very difficulty buying homes here because our investors snap them up. I would think that, we have to maybe address that first before trying to make more homes for investors to buy. But the water is, I think, the main issue. So I appreciate being able to comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further hands via Zoom.
I do have 2 more participants who would like to speak. Gary H. If you could please state your first and last name for the record.
My name is Gary Houck, and I just wanted to, this is just like public comment, not related to the agenda, but I wanted to say that I think that, we got a master plan update going, and And with that, we've got a real issue with roads. We pay 86 cents a gallon for gas here in Reno, and the roads are a disaster. And like I live in Washoe Valley, so going up the Washoe Hill, I've had complaints into NDOT and everything, and I think, with the lack of drivers and everything else, that maybe some consolidation as far as road work goes would be good. They send out street sweepers, on our local roads, and all they do is blow dust, and it's very disappointing. So that's all I have to say about that.
And I have no further public comment in chambers.
I do have a few more hands raised via Zoom for the general public comments. I have Mike Jordan. I'm going to allow you to speak. Please unmute and state first and last name for the record. Mike, are you there? All right, I will come back to you. I have Jenny with her hand raised. Jenny, if you could please unmute and state your first and last name for the record.
Yes, can you hear me well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Jenny Quintero, and I live by Arrow Creek. My question, or I guess my comment, or establish the opposition to this proposal is connected to one that one of the speakers already mentioned, and it is regarding the lack of, or why everything is consolidated together, like all these sectors like Arrow Creek, Galena, Truckee, Meadows, everything is consolidated into only one proposal. And then I guess it says on the proposal that was adopted, that was presented, that the amendment will not conflict with the public's health, safety, or welfare. And that, I don't know how did you study that? What type of a study you made? Because I see the schools, I am a parent, I see the schools are overcrowded. There is no space for kids to run around. There will be not a lot more teachers. You're not proposing a new school, new teachers that are going to divide the classroom so that the kids can run around or that the kids get a better education. I oppose totally the proposition. And I don't know how you got to this point to say, okay, we can change this to everybody, like every single zone on the county. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to come back to Mike Jordan. If you could unmute and state your first and last name for the record.
Mike Jordan, can you hear me?
Yes, you have the floor.
Yes, thanks for this opportunity to speak to the planning commissioners. I also wanted to speak in opposition to the proposed regulatory zoning change to add LDS2 to the master plan. I also live up near the Reno Christian Fellowship Church, and their repeated attempts to alter long-standing LDS1 zoning for their property. We are all aware of the growth challenges facing Washoe County and the need for both affordable and high-end housing in the region. However, we are very quickly losing the quality of life that generations have enjoyed in Northern Nevada, and agreeing to add LDS2 as a zoning option opens the floodgates further to greedy landowners and developers looking to line their pockets at the expense of Washoe County residents and the quality of life we have historically enjoyed here in Northern Nevada. My wife and I have lived here for 22 years. I'm sure many of you have lived here for longer periods of time in your families. Please support long-established neighborhoods and homeowners within Washoe County, and don't add an LDS2 zoning option to the existing master plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ken Green, I do see your hand, but you've already spoken once during this public comment period, so you will have another opportunity under item 8, public hearings, or item 11, public comment. Steve Moraca, I have a hand raised. I'm going to allow you to speak. If you could please unmute and state your first and last name for the record.
Yes, this is Steve Moraca. Thank you for the opportunity of speaking. I would like to echo everyone else's comments regarding the opposition to this. It's all about quality of life. I left the Las Vegas area 5 years ago, and I've seen this happen to where developers come in, they get one zoning change, and then they continue to do a zoning change and try to get other higher densities at a later date. I specifically bought on acreage to have a beautiful home and have a nice environment that I could enjoy, and Reno really offers that. And to come in and change a master plan, which is strategic in nature, seems a little bit out of sorts, especially when it's a blanket change, is what you're proposing in item B. That's just not appropriate, and I think that I would agree that there's some other motivation here, especially in such a time when the ability and affordability to build homes right now because of inflation is in a downturn. We're going to see a bubble burst here pretty soon, and I think it's very inappropriate at this time to go ahead and change this master plan and also do it in such a blanket nature. With that, I would also like to add my past experience with counties are that you get written notice in the mail, not through public notification in the newspaper. If that is a common practice within Washoe County, I would suggest you consider changing that so everybody that should be aware of this is aware of this issue. Thank you very much for speaking, allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further hands raised via Zoom.
No
Nothing
further
more.
comment in chambers.
Hearing no more public comment, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda for tonight. I have been asked to make a change on the agenda to take item 8C and bring that up front, turn it into A, and then go into B and C, because there's not as much involved on that item. So if I could, I'd enjoy a motion from someone to approve the amended agenda for
Madam
tonight.
Chair, Commissioner Chesney moves to approve the amended agenda to move item C to the top of the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Either way.
We have a second.
You have to identify who made the second.
I think it was Mr. Vilcek.
Thank you.
So we have a first and a second on approval of the agenda, moving item 8C up to the top. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We are officially moving item 8C up to the agenda. Secretary Lloyd, if you could read that in for us, please.
We have to approve the minutes.
Oh, sorry, I was jumping ahead. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I apologize. Next on the agenda, of course, is the approval of the February 1st, 2022 draft minutes of our last meeting.
Commissioner Chesney moves to approve the draft minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Chesney. Is there a second? Ms. Phillips, thank you for the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
Okay, thank you. We have one abstention. Commissioner Flick. The approval goes forward. Then we are going into, again, apologize, public hearings for item 8C. For the first item, Secretary Lloyd, if you would, please.
Of course. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Development Code Amendment, case number WDCA 210004. For hearing, discussion, and possible action to initiate an amendment to the Washoe County Code, Chapter 110, Article 324, by repealing sections 110, 32450E11 and 110, 32450F9 related to placement standards for new monopole antennas and lattice towers regulating emergency service communication facilities, which are owned and operated by governmental agencies, and by adding a new section governing emergency service communication facilities, which shall be permitted in all regulatory zones with an approved special use permit, and which addresses requirements for A, general, B, application, C, exemptions, D, findings, E, right-of-way, F, height and standards, G, fencing, and H, antenna types, and all matters necessarily connected therewith and pertaining thereto. If the proposed amendment is initiated, hold a public hearing and further possible action to deny or recommend approval of the proposed amendments, and if approval is recommended, to authorize the chair to sign a resolution to that effect. Representing Washoe County in this matter is Planner Julie Olander.
Thank you, Julie.
Good evening, Julie Olander for the record, Planning and Building. So this is a development code application that you have before you, as Mr. Lloyd explained. It's for for Article 324 communication facilities, and it's primarily related to the emergency service communication facility portion. So Article 324 provides the standards for communications throughout Washoe County. This amendment is proposing to delete two existing sections of code that you folks approved in 2020, and then add a new section that is just primarily for the emergency facilities. So the section that was approved in 2020 was concerning emergency facilities in established sites, and there's been some concerns about the non-established sites. And just to give you a little background, in September 25th, 2018, the Board of County Commissioners agreed to replace the existing land mobile radio system with an updated system. And then on April 28th, 2020, they adopted a code amendment to add this language for the emergency service communication facilities. But that section was just for established sites. So it's been discovered somewhat by our Washoe County staff that there are these unestablished sites, and this is the concern that's been being brought forward to you. So the proposed amendment will address those non-established sites for emergency communication facilities. And then with those non-established sites will require a special use permit. So we're deleting the sections that were approved in 2020, incorporating them in the new section, which will be 110, 324, 53. And that section will address both the established sites and the non-established sites. And those are that's outlined in your staff report. I didn't want to go line by line through that, but that is, so we've developed a whole new section in code that addresses that. There was a neighborhood meeting held on January 5th here at the county complex between 5 and 6. The meeting was held in person and by Zoom. We had one attendee, and she just had questions about what this change would do. And we explained it was for the emergency facility communication only. And so that that satisfied her interest. Again, and this was also legally noticed in the RGJ on February 18th. Staff can make the findings, and I provide a motion in your staff report, and I'm available for question, and the applicant is also here, is available for questions.
Thank you, Julie. At this time, would the applicant like to make any presentation?
They don't have a presentation, but they are available for questions. We have both Stacey Huggins from Wood Rogers, and then Melissa, and I'm going to pronounce her last name incorrectly. She's with Washoe County, so anyway. But they're both here, and they can explain further about the emergency facilities and what why, what the changes are specifically.
Okay. At this point, does anyone, is there any public comment on this item, ladies?
I have no public comment in chambers.
And I have no hands raised via Zoom.
All right, thank you. I'll close the public comment portion of this and bring this back to the commissioners for any questions of staff or applicant.
Pat
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes, Commissioner Phillips.
I was wondering if the type of equipment that would be placed would fit in with the neighborhood where it will be located. I mean, there are different kinds of towers and trees and
Hello, this is Melissa Alani for the record. So I work for the Washoe County Regional Communications System. The way we put together all towers, primarily we like to stick to the lattice towers. They're kind of like a see-through, they kind of blend through. There's nothing super reflective on it. And we do that specifically because of the structure. It strengthens it, and we can add enough equipment on there to serve everything from fire to all of our public safety users. So does it blend in? I think so, but honestly, it's really, you see towers around here. The lattice towers, the structures are designed specifically not to draw attention to themselves. Does it answer? Okay.
Madam Chair, if I could also, most of these sites that they've selected are very remote. They're not established, very, very often, they're not in established neighborhoods. That's not where you're going to find them.
Thank you, Secretary.
Julie Yolanda, for the record. I also want to point out that in the non-established sites where they aren't traditionally found, that's what this new code will require, is putting in place, that it will require a special use permit. So then in those non-established sites where they might be in some kind of conflict with the neighborhoods, we would have the opportunity to review that a little closer, and that would go before, those applications would go before the Board of Adjustment.
Thank you, Julie, for the clarification. Commissioners, any further questions? Hearing no further questions, I will bring it back at this point if it doesn't. Commissioners have any motions?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr.
Chesney.
Chesney.
I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission recommend approval of WDCA 21-0004 to amend Washoe County Chapter 110 Development Code, Article 324, Communications Facilities, as reflected in the proposed ordinance contained in Attachment A1. I further move to authorize the chair to sign the resolution contained in Exhibit A on behalf of the Washoe County Planning Commission and to direct staff to present a report of this commission's recommendation to the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners within 60 days of today's date. This recommendation for approval is based on all of the following four findings in accordance with Washoe County Section 110-818-15(e). Consistency with the master plan, promotes the purpose of the development code, response to changed conditions, no adverse effects.
Thank you, Mr. Chesney. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Nelson, I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. We have a first and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you, Julie, for that one. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we go back to item 8A. Secretary Lloyd, if you could read that in for us, please.
Sure thing. This is Development Code Amendment, case number WDCA 22-0001, for hearing, discussion, and possible action to initiate an amendment and approve a resolution to amend Washoe County Code, Chapter 110, Article 319, short-term rentals by amending various sections in order to, 1, change the requirements for processing a Tier 3 STR application from an administrative permit approved by the Board of Adjustment to a special use permit approved by the Planning Commission. 2, exclude overflow parking spaces in condominium or multifamily complexes in the calculation of required parking spaces. 3, require the STR property owners notarize certification to include an attestation that the subject STR property is covered by insurance that provides for a minimum of $500,000 liability coverage per occupant per occurrence. 4, repeal the requirement to submit a certificate of insurance. 5, provide that a bear box is required in the Incline Village General Improvement District service territory following 2 confirmed trash violations. 6, modify the maximum occupancy calculation from 1 occupant for every 200 square feet of habitable space to 2 occupants for each legally permitted bedroom, with the remainder of the home, excluding bedrooms, calculated as 1 occupant for every 200 square feet of habitable space, and all matters necessarily connected therewith and pertaining thereto. If the proposed amendments are initiated, the Planning Commission may recommend approval of the proposed ordinance as submitted, recommend approval with modifications based on input and discussion at the public hearing, or recommend denial. Any material modifications that exceed the scope of the amendments being considered at this hearing may require continuation of the hearing for possible action at a future meeting. If approval is recommended, the Planning Commission is asked to authorize the chair to sign a resolution to that effect. Representing Washoe County in this matter is Senior Planner Courtney Wyke.
And Courtney, before you start, I just want to remind everybody that this is a very huge document. Washoe County staff and the community went through a lot to get to this document, but we are only looking at these specific items that Trevor mentioned. We are not reopening the STR as a whole.
That's already been done.
So thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for that, Chair Donchik and Commission. Courtney Wyke, Senior Planner. The item before you today is a consideration and recommendation to the Board of County Board of County Commissioners for amendments to Article 319 short-term rentals. Oh, I have to use this. Sorry about that. Okay, a little bit of background. On May 1st, the STR ordinance became effective and the county began accepting STR applications. After a 3-month grace period, full code enforcement began on August 1st. In the fall of 2021, staff began outreaching to STR operators, the general public, and our partnering agencies and county departments for input on the short-term rental program today. In January, staff presented an update to the Board of County Commissioners on the short-term rental permitting trends and current data with a request for direction on a variety of policy recommendations by staff. In October, 2 workshops were held on the existing short-term rental ordinance, one specifically targeting short-term rental owners, managers, and operators for their experience with the permitting process and short-term rental operating regulations. A second one was also held and was open to the general public. In addition, a number of emails were also received and were included as an attachment to the Planning Commission staff report. Staff also reached out to applicable agencies and departments such as the Sheriff's Office, North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District, Truckee Meadow Fire Protection District, Incline Village General Improvement District, Building and Code Enforcement, and RSCBA, along with many others. A brief summary of comments included the following: recognition that there's a general support on all sides for the new short-term rental regulations. There was an expression of frustration with the current methodology used to calculate maximum occupancy, a request to simplify the application and renewal process, concerns over the availability of code enforcement resources to manage the program, general nuisance concerns, which can generally be put into 4 categories: noise, trash, occupancy, and parking. There's also concern of possible impact short-term rentals may have on available housing stock, and a desire to assure transparency of the current STR permit information and data available to the public. On January 25th, staff presented an update on the STR program and its progress thus far, as well as relaying the concerns and feedback received as a result of all of staff's outreach. As a result, the Board of County Commissioners directed staff to draft a code amendment to Article 319 addressing occupancy calculations with a possible change in methodology, parking requirements, trash garbage collection rules, insurance requirements, and permitting requirements. After review of the feedback received from our partnering agencies, county departments, short-term rental operators, the community, and Board of County Commission direction, staff offers the following 5 amendments to Article 319 for the Commission's consideration and direction to the Board of County Commissioners. 1, currently the code requires staff to verify the minimum requirements of insurance via a certificate of insurance. Due to the innumerable number of insurance policies and the complexities of each, staff is recommending expanding the required notarized affidavit to put the onus on the applicant to affirm they have the required minimum insurance requirements as required by the code, rather than staff deciphering through each of the various insurance policies for compliance with the code. 2, clarify requirements related to the required number of parking spaces in condo and multifamily developments where parking is unassigned. Parking used for occupancy would be based on proof of designated parking spaces for the unit and would not be able to use overflow or unassigned parking towards an STR's occupancy calculation. Overwhelmingly, especially from the STR operators, the response we received was frustration with the methodology used for calculating maximum occupancy. In response to those concerns, that the current methodology disproportionately impacted condominiums, staff recommends revising the methodology used to determine occupants. As an example, it was more common than not for a 3-bedroom condo to be limited to a maximum of 4 to 5 occupants due to the verified habitable square footage of the overall condo, not taking into account the number of bedrooms. Currently, the code uses a 1 person for every 200 square feet of verified habitable space to determine the maximum occupancy. As an alternative, staff recommends revising the occupancy to be based on 2 persons for every 1 legal bedroom, with the remainder of the verified habitable space to be calculated at 1 person for every 200 square feet in accordance with the 2018 International Building Code, not to also include the square footage of each bedroom. Please also note the limiting factor in occupancy will also be based on the number of designated parking spaces at 1 space for every 4 occupants. This proposed methodology would be applied to both multifamily and single-family residences. Additionally, over concerns with trash and wildlife issues with refuse, staff is recommending that we add the requirement for a bear box within specifically the IVCID territory, Incline Village General Improvement District's territory, following 2 confirmed trash violation to install a bear box. And finally, staff is recommending changing Tier 3 short-term rentals, this is occupants above 20 persons, to be approved through a special use permit, which involves a public hearing at the Planning Commission and the ability to add conditions tailored to address specific impacts of the STR location and circumstances. Currently, Tier 3s are subject to approval of an administrative permit approved by the Board of Adjustment. With that, staff has the following the recommendation to the Planning Commission from staff is recommend approval of WDCA 22-001 to amend the development code as described in the staff report with the details provided specifically in Exhibit A. Staff has provided the following motion for your consideration, and with that concludes my staff presentation, and I am available for any questions.
Thank you, Courtney. I must apologize to everyone. Before we started, I should have asked, just to be on the safe side, if there was any disclosures by commissioners, whether they were ethics or ex parte communications. All right, seeing none, thank you very much. Is there any public comment on this item, ladies, at this time?
I do have public comment. Gary Hauk.
Gary Hauk, Washoe Valley. So I think that the conditions are really great that you've come up with, especially for the parking and all that. But I'm a little concerned about enforcement and how, where do like neighbors go in order to, if there's violations of the terms and conditions. And the other thing is the bears. I don't know. I don't get what the problem is with it. Is there a legal something that prevents you from requiring bear boxes up in that kind of a in the interface with the mountains and everything? It's always an issue. You got Hank the big bear now, and it's been going through houses in the Tahoe Keys and everything. So why can't you just force people to get bear boxes? I don't understand that, but that's not. And then I would like to see insurance. So I'm a contractor in Washoe County, and I pay my business license and everything else, and I have to give a certificate of insurance every year to the powers that be. So, and I really didn't understand the process with this short-term rental thing, but it seems like they're getting off easy on it, and I would like to see that is maintained, that they can, that they have to show proof every year, just like I do, because you've got all these, we're trying to keep things even, Steven, across the table for all entities, and if they have to have a business license to do a short-term rental, why then they should have to do the same things that I have to do. And then the staff mentioned something about data, and the staff report was absolutely fantastic, I thought. And I would like to see that data maintained for the public. That's all.
Thank you. Any more public comment?
No further public comment in chambers.
I do have a hand raised via Zoom. Robert Tashida, I'm going to allow you to speak. If you could please unmute and state your first and last name for the record. If you can go ahead and unmute. All right, I'm seeing no response on this end. I have no other hands raised via Zoom.
All right, thank you, ladies. At that point, then I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion and questions of staff.
I would just, to the chair, I'd just like to say that from the very beginning, we looked at this document as a living, breathing document that would be reviewed and updated as things progressed, and we found good things and bad things about it, and I think we're keeping our word on that. And I very much appreciate staff and the work that they put into it. I know the folks in code enforcement are up to their eyeballs in everything in the county, and I'd like to commend them for the job that they do. And I think this is a good first or second step on this thing. Thank you.
Any further? At this point, then, ladies and gentlemen, I will call for a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner
I
Jessen.
move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission recommend approval of WDCA 22-001 to amend Washoe County Code Chapter 110 Development Code within Article 319 as reflected in the proposed ordinance contained in Attachment A1. I further move to authorize the chair to sign the resolution contained in Exhibit A on behalf of the Planning Commission and to direct the staff to present a report of this commission's recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners within 60 days of this date. This recommendation is for approval is based on the following 4 findings within the Washoe County Code, Section 110, 818.15, paren E, consistency with the master plan, promotes purpose of development code, response to change conditions, and no adverse effects.
Thank you, Commissioner J. Do we have a second?
This is Commissioner Chvilchek. I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Jessen. We have a first and a second. Any further discussion?
This is just dealing with the STR
Yes.
portion? It's
This is
not
just,
dealing with the density?
no, this is just those items.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. Okay, at this point, if there are no more further questions, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Secretary Lloyd, if we could move on to item 8B, please.
Yes, ma'am. This is Master Plan Amendment, case number WMPA 220004, for hearing, discussion, and possible action to approve a resolution initiating and adopting an amendment to the Southwest Truckee Meadows Area Plan, a component of the Washoe County Master Plan, for the purpose of amending Land Use Goal 1 Policy SW13, SW17, SW18, and SW19 for adding low-density suburban 2, LDS 2, which is 2 units per acre, as a permissible regulatory zone in the West Truckee Meadows Wildland Transition Suburban Character Management Area, the Foothill SCMA, the Thomas Creek SCMA, and Lower Galena SCMA. And if approved, authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Planning Commission for submission to the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners. Representing Washoe County once again is Planner Julie Olander.
Thank you, Julie. Just to be safe, are there any disclosures by the commissioners at this time, whether ethics or ex parte, on this item? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Julie.
Good evening again, Julie Olander with Planning and Building. So this is a master plan amendment to the Southwest Area Plan that we have before us, and we're requesting to change Goal 1 within the South Truckee Meadows Area Plan. So I just want to clarify, some people were confused that this was a zone change. It's a master plan amendment that we're proposing to do, and it is only in the Southwest area planning area. It's not in North Valleys, it's not in the South, it's not in the Southeast area, it's just in the Southwest. So Goal 1 is the land use section of the plan, and what we're proposing to do is add low-density suburban 2 units per acre as a permitted regulatory zone within the suburban character management areas of West Truckee Meadows, Wildland Transition, Foothill, Thomas Creek, and Lower Galena. And here's a map of the Southwest area plan to the left, and then you can sort of see it. We've circled the areas where the character management areas where this low density suburban 2 would be added. So you can see there's several areas that we aren't suggesting it in, and some that we are. So the amendment will provide an additional zoning classification in those character management areas as highlighted in the map. Low-density suburban 2 requires a foot setback of 30 feet in the front and rear, 10 on the sides. And the density, as I've said, is 2 units per acre. The areas, the suburban character management areas that were selected are suburban area CSMAs that currently allow medium density suburban, which is 3 units per acre, and low density suburban, which is 1 unit per acre. The addition of the low density 2 would be sort of the middle. It'd be in between the two. And here's just how it would be outlined. This is I just cut out the West Truckee Meadows character management area, and you can see where I've highlighted the low density 2 in between the medium density and the low density suburban, which is 1 unit per acre. And then you can see the other zoning classifications that are allowed in West Truckee Meadows. The West Truckee Meadows area plan vision speaks to housing, and it speaks to saying, and encourages to providing a range of housing. So within Southwest Truckee Meadows, when that plan was developed, the people that were involved in the development of that plan, they wanted a variety of housing. That's the reason you see those different options as we just showed. And then also further in the Washoe County Master Plan, the housing element, Policy 1.5 encourages development higher densities where appropriate. And then further, it goes on to say the county will utilize this higher density zoning designation to allow for the most efficient use of the land that has infrastructure in place or where the installation infrastructure is planned. I just want to also add that, just to remind people that this is just a policy change. So that was one of the reasons that it was not noticed individually to houses. So with policy changes, we typically just notice it in a CMail blast that goes out to people that are interested in the different plans, the activities that are going on within planning, and then also it was listed on the Washoe County website. So we did have a neighborhood meeting. It was held on February 2nd from 5 to 6. We had 5 people attend by Zoom, and they had several questions about the changes. Some were in opposition and some were just asking questions. And then, as you know, we've received numerous emails and I've received numerous phone calls that have been distributed to you, and they have a variety of different comments. And as I said, the legal notice was put in the paper on February 18th. I just want to emphasize that again, so I know people asked about why they didn't get a notice in the mail individually to their house. This is a policy change. It's not a specific master plan change to a specific property or parcel. Because it's a policy change, we have a different procedure to notice. Staff can make all the findings for the master plan amendment, and I provided a motion in your staff report, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Julie. Is there any public comment at this time?
I have public comment in chambers. Gary Hauk.
Last time, I promise. So, Gary Hauk, Washoe Valley, and so right off the top, I think we're in the middle of a master plan amendment with the entire county and everything. So I think this item should be tabled until we can discuss it on a different level with everyone. Don't even know the status of the area plans. Years ago, they took away our East Washoe Valley CAB, which I was on for 9 years, and we don't have anybody on the South Valley's area plan on our CAB anymore, so representation has been very difficult for us. I do have a meeting with Eric Young tomorrow, and but anyway, that's where I have to go with that. And I think that it's wrong to, if you allow this to go through now, because I think it sets a precedent for the entire county, and I don't think that's fair to the rest of the county, because they'll go, oh, well, we did this in Southwest Truckee Meadows, and I don't think that should happen. So I think you should put it off.
Thank you. Ladies, any further public comment?
Yes, I have William Naylor.
Good evening. My name is William Naylor. I'd like to read you something out of the vision statement for the Southwest Truckee Meadows Area Plan. It says here, this plan aims to support the ongoing investment made by the residents of Southwest Truckee Meadows and the preservation of this area's rural residential character. For the most part, the area is or is planned to be built out. The potential for any change in land use is limited. Therefore, the focus of this plan is not on growth, but on maintenance and support of already mature communities. I think it says it right there. And that's finding A in the area plan. It can't be made. This says you shouldn't have any growth. You should concentrate on what's there already. Also, you listen to all the comments of the people. It's obvious that every one of them that I've heard and all the letters attached to the staff report, these people feel their welfare is severely endangered by this action. That's item C. That can't be met. In addition, there was no study. One of the reasons we're doing this kind of thing is because we have a study that says we need it. None was submitted with the staff report. There's no study that says this is even required. In addition to that, we have almost 30,000 approved parcels in Washoe County which have not been developed. Why should we go after higher density in an area that is already very nicely developed? Okay, reading the staff report, it said that the county submitted this request. There was no application online with it. You couldn't find out who submitted it or anything about the schools or the infrastructure or the questions that are normally asked in a development application. Wasn't there. But I'm reiterating Gary's concern. The county's about halfway into modifying all of the area plans in the county under Envision Washoe 2040. Why in the world would we put this thing into effect 2 or 3 months before the area plans are modified? It makes no sense. The county instituted it. Why did the county do that when they're already modifying the area plans? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies, any further public comment either in Zoom or in chambers?
No further public comment in chambers.
I do have hands raised via Zoom. Cheryl Jordan, I'm going to allow you to speak. If you could please unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Can you hear me?
The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to refute something that Julie Olander said. This is just a policy change. Is that how they're phrasing it? This is a change in zoning amendment for a broad area. It's a blanket policy for all this open land out in South suburban Reno. They're proposing to be converted to LDS2. We just went through this process in a property with regard to Reno Christian Fellowship Church. My question is why? Why are we revisiting this? Did we open the gates because MDS3 was denied by 5-0 for the Board of Commissioners and the Planning Commission previously? This blanket policy opens the door for developers. Are we getting pressure from developers? Is that why we're proposing this? I agree with the gentleman who said it sets a new precedent. It opens the door. It allows developers to come in and say, oh, the zoning is now LDS2. We can get those 26 homes in there, which is a compromise that Reno Christian Fellowship had proposed when they realized that MDS3 was not going to work. So again, we were never invited to a neighborhood meeting. Somebody brought up that there was a neighborhood meeting. This time around, we were never invited. The process before, as was laid out by another gentleman previously, where we went through the process, the CAB, the Planning Commission, the Board of Commissioners. It was unanimous in every state, and now we're coming back with a new policy change to amend a broad blanket of land to this LDS2 zoning. Also, I wanted to reference an email from the Galena communities. I know you're hearing about from Southwest Vistas and from Thomas Creek area and South suburban area, but Galena Communities as well has voiced their disapproval and opposition to this, saying it's a broad attempt at increasing residential density in the unincorporated county. This change is not needed to support growth. Higher density zoning will favor the developmental interests while undermining the quality of life for existing homeowners. Higher density zoning will detract from the quality of life for existing residents. Again, listen to the people. You have numerous emails. This has been through this process before. Many, hundreds of homeowners out here have done petitions and to any kind of zoning and change in the past and have rebuffed it and opposed it. Please listen to us and value what we have sent into you, and are voicing our opposition to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies, any further public comment?
I have Paul Junkie. I'm going to allow you to speak. Please unmute.
Hello, thanks for allowing us to speak. It's good that we were able to hear about this meeting. I heard about it just an hour or two before the start of the meeting because you folks have decided to not publish it in the ways that have been suggested by the speakers. And you decided to call it just a policy, and it clearly isn't just a policy. It's a change to the master plan. And the master plan is a strategic, long-term document that we can all build on and invest on and count on for the long term, as one other speaker mentioned earlier. And if you're trying to change the master plan that we bought into, spending hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to invest in based upon that master plan, what is the justification for changing the master plan, the strategic document upon which all of our homes are built? Is there some change in the vision of how you see this southwest area of Reno? Is there some change in the vision of how you envision it being developed over the years? Do you want to, change it from homes to, a suburban urban area? You're going to want to put skyscrapers in someday, or you're going to want to turn it into cattle parks? What's changed in the vision that none of us are aware of? And then who is the person in the county or the city who's deciding the vision should change? Should we all get a vote on that? If you're going to change the vision upon which this master plan is based, and then after you have a clear vision, you should have a mission statement as to what is the mission of the Planning and Zoning Commission as far as future development, and what's changed in that, and what's the cause for that to be changed. And that is not at all clear in this document that was presented, or this amendment, or this recommendation. Nothing's clear about a change in either the vision or the mission. Then after you have a clear mission statement, you need to have clear goals. And we all know what the goals are. They're to have a rural, as read by this other gentleman. It's been stated for many years what the goals are. We all know what they are. To have good quality of life in a rural development that's environmentally friendly. And now all of a sudden, somebody says that needs to change. But why does it need to change, and how do you propose to change those goals? And I think you should clearly lay out the vision, mission, and goals before you go recommending a change to the master plan strategic document. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
I have Steve on Zoom. If you could please unmute and state your first and last name for the record.
My name is Steve Erger, and I did speak earlier. I wanted to add one additional comment that I thought of after I spoke. I want to make it clear that at least my feelings, and I think I speak for most of the people that are in the community, is that we're not opposed to them building homes there according to what they're allowed to build per the current zoning requirements. There's no issue there at all. The issue is obviously playing the game to change the rules after the fact. I really like the gentleman who read the mission statement for the county and the master plan. It made a lot of sense, and it seems like what we have now are, there's a small group of people, the church and the developers who want to change the rules to meet their goals and their profit motives. And when you do that, it just adds to the fact that people's mistrust of government. Like politicians are selectively enforcing rules and laws and changing things as they see fit for their friends or where the money lies. Let's not play that game. You're elected or you're appointed to enforce the rules, and let's just stay within the bounds that we're supposed to. I think that's what everyone is really asking for here. Nothing more, nothing less. So I do appreciate you listening to us. I know you have a hard job to do. It's a tough decision, but please consider what everyone is speaking to here. We didn't get a lot of notice on this. As Julie mentioned, it's only put in the paper and on your website. If we had a notice earlier, you'd have a lot more people speaking out, and we could maybe go on for an hour or more. But if it goes on to the commissioners, I think we're going to rally the troops again like we did before and make our voice heard. Again, thank you for your listening.
Thank you. Ladies, any more public comment?
I do have another hand raised via Zoom. Hal Craddock, if you could please unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, the floor is yours.
Hi, Hal Craddock. I also live in Southwest Vistas. I support all the previous speakers who oppose 8B. I'm in opposition to the 8B, the change in the master plan. I'd like to make two comments regarding that. Number one, when the church tried to change the zoning for their property before, it was quite a stretch to go from LDS 1 to MDS 3. However, to go from LDS 2 to a smaller step is not as big a stretch. And I have a feeling this is an end run by the church. They're part of this master plan change so that they can afford or accommodate an easier solution to the change they may want. And the other thing regarding the master plan change is each property out here in the South Suburban is unique. So this blanket change, it's not appropriate in my opinion. Every property should be considered individually as regards to a zoning change, corresponding to what is already existing there and what surrounds that existing property, as was the case with the 12.55 acres here at that RCF owns. It's surrounded by a minimum of half-acre lots. So a blanket change just does not apply to all the various pockets of property that this might apply to. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Ladies, any further public comment?
I have no further hands raised via Zoom, but I would like to state for the record, Madam Chair, in addition to the public comment that Planner Ms. Olander included in her staff report, we did also receive 27 emails, which were distributed to the commissioners and posted to the county website prior to the meeting. And I do believe Ms. Olander distributed one additional email received just before the meeting, which she shared with you at the dais, and that will be posted within 24 hours of the meeting to the website.
Thank you very much. Hearing no more public comment, I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for questions of staff. Or
Madam Chair, Patricia Phillips.
Commissioner Phillips, you have a question for staff?
Yes. I have actually 4 questions and concerns, and I am hoping you can answer these. Is there some kind of emergency that makes this necessary? This applies to the current master plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay, was there some kind of emergency that made it seem, or concerns that made it necessary to do it now rather than waiting for the new master plan so that that can go before the public and give them some opportunity to voice their concerns?
I should say for the record, Julie Olander with Planning Building. I'll comment, and I think Mr. Lloyd might have a comment too. So this did come out of the Reno Christian Fellowship discussion that you all were a part of. However, and as you, Commissioner Phillips, probably remember because you were on the cab, I believe, when it came there, there was a comment made at the cab that the cab would support 2 units per acre at that location where next to the property the RCF owned. However, that was not an option. So that's somewhat where that conversation started, was at the Southwest Cab. And from that, I believe that then the applicants for the RCF zone change did approach the county and suggested offering the low density 2 units per acre. And that's what we're bringing forward at this time. To speak to the master plan, the comments about updating the master plan, that is an ongoing process. And I believe Eric Young presented to you last month where he's at in that process. That is probably still about another year or 2 out before that plan would be, that whole update would be completed. So those are some of the things that's sort of what the timing and how this sort of came forward. And I don't know if Mr. Lloyd would like to comment too.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. I'll just piggyback on what Julie was saying very briefly. And I don't know if I would call it necessarily an emergency. What it is a commitment to essentially fix this part of the Southwest Truckee Meadows area plan, master plan. When that area plan was originally adopted, there was no LDS2 regulatory zone. Had there been, it would have been included. Clearly, there's LDS 1 and MDS 3. So the question is, well, why not allow 2 units when you allow both 1 and 3? And so it essentially was a commitment from staff to move forward to essentially fix an area plan to allow all of the regulatory zones within that suburban character or within that suburban master plan land use designation.
Okay.
And this is Julie Olander with Planning and Building. And just to add on to that, as has been said, there are properties down there that are already half acres, all along Rockhaven, which is behind RCF. Those properties are all 1/2 acre. And then even within the Southwest Vistas, there's properties that are half acres. So there are properties right now that are zoned low density suburban, which they should be a minimum of 1 acre. However, they are not. So there are properties there that in a sense are non-conforming because they don't meet the minimum lot size of 1 acre.
Okay, and I remember how I voted when it came before the CAB too.
Well, I think the CAB all voted, they were against it, but I think they were also for the low density. There was a conversation about the LDS too, though.
Okay, the second part of this, we did not have maps as to exactly where these 1 acre parcels would be. And I would find it very helpful because it isn't just for the church property that wants to be developed. I'm thinking about what's happening with the homeowners in some of the other sections. And the way this is written, it really doesn't give us a true picture of how it will affect neighborhoods and ownership of the homes that are always there. And I would like to see this tabled until we could see some more of who's going to be affected by that. And part of that effect is some of these might be close to areas that could become a sphere of influence to the city of Reno. And that would definitely change the culture just by the location of where they are. That would make it so that the sphere of influence could move in. And that's another reason why I like to see this tabled so that we can see that.
Can I just add,
yeah.
Mr. Phillips, I just want to say that there isn't a map per se. The map that I showed up, and I can show it again, we're just allowing the low density 2 units per acre. you still would have to come in and apply for a zone change, which would then come before this board and the Board of County Commissioners. So it's not like it's not a blanket. We're not changing all the properties. You have to apply for it. We're adding it, and maybe I'll just go back to that. Maybe it's forward. Can I? Not moving. Oh, so it's like, this is an example. This is West Truckee Meadows Wildland Transition Suburban Character Management Area. And you can see A through K. These are zoning designations that are allowed in that character management area. And as Lacey's helping me out, if you go down, we're proposing to add low density, but that doesn't make you low density. You still need to come in and apply for that zone change to get that designation. So no one's property is being changed. You have to, if you want to change it, you have to come. It's sort of like if you want to buy, the bicycle or whatever, you have to go to the store and buy it. So you have to come into the county and apply for a zone change to get that low density suburban 2. If you're low density right now with one LDS right now, you can remain LDS 1, but so you have to apply for this change.
Okay, then my additional concern had to do with the Southwest Truckee Meadows area plan. On page 5 of the report, the staff report that we got, it talks about the amendment will further implement and preserve the vision and character statement. And B, the amendment conforms to all applicable policies. But what I'm concerned about is it does change the neighborhood a lot of times. And I know that it's presenting a case that can be taken forward from this. It sets a precedence. But currently, it doesn't really conform to the applicable policies of the Southwest Truckee Meadows area plan.
All I can say is just adding that as an option. It's also saying, some people would say that medium density suburban doesn't meet maybe their idea of how the Southwest plan is, but it's already there. So it's not making anything, it's not changing anything. This is truly a policy change. It's giving you the option of being medium density suburban or low density suburban or low density suburban 2. It gives you that option. It's sort of like you can choose if you want to change the zoning in your property. It's not conflicting with the master plan because it's just adding another option in the master plan. It's not it's not increasing the density because it's just a policy change. If they want to increase the density, they're going to have to come in and apply for a zoning amendment. That would become before you, and then you would decide, do they have the schools? Do they have the water? Is there sewer there? Is it going to impact the neighborhood? At that point, when the zoning amendment application comes before you, that's when you would look at those items that you're speaking about, how it impacts the neighborhood. But just to add LDS2 to the list of zoning options, there's no impact to that because it's just adding an option onto the list.
Chair Donchak.
Yes, Commissioner Nelson.
I've got a couple questions. Speaking to that, so it's a policy change that allows people to come in and change their zoning. However, in my opinion, it's almost worse to do it that way because then you get one parcel coming in at a time. And so that 1 acre parcel turns into 2 dwelling units. So you don't have the studies that have to be done with the road impacts, with the school impacts, with the utility impacts. So it's almost like it's certainly getting around the system because at that point, we've got a select number of lots that are available for this throughout those area plans. So if you have a handful of lots coming in, but not all at the same time over 5 years, then you've increased the density, but you haven't accounted for that in your infrastructure.
Well, this is Julie Olam's Planning and Building. They would still have to come in with a zoning amendment application. And in that application, it would be looked at, the impact to the school. So let's say you came in and divided your lot into, 2 lots or 4 lots or whatever you want to do. And then Commissioner Flick did it, and then Commissioner Donchik, and so on down the road. And by the time it got to Commissioner Chesney, the impacts that would be, might not be as significant with you because the schools can absorb the 4 children. But by the time it got to Commissioner Chesney, it might not. So by the time it got to Commissioner Chesney, there could be an issue. So, and it could be piecemeal like that. The application for a zoning map amendment is $7,000. So you have to calculate that into your costs, I would think, if you're developing land, to make sure that you can absorb that fee and still make, some financial gain off the property. There's ways around it. Right now, they can come in for MDS 3 and get 3 units per acre. They can apply for that. That's allowed in the Southwest Area Plan and some of these, in the character management areas that have been identified in this application.
And those areas have been accounted for theoretically in the design of the infrastructure that's out there. But if you look at it as a whole, okay, now we're not just looking at the 1s and the 2s, we're looking at the area, how it has been developed. And do we think Thomas Creek Road is satisfactory for an evacuation during a fire? I don't think so. I was in the fire last year in June when Thomas Creek Road was at a standstill. Zalessi was at a standstill. Arrow Creek, standstill. Wedge Parkway, standstill. So that infrastructure today has been built based on what's there. So, and it's already undersized. So if we start saying the majority of these areas that could be MDS 3, right, they're gonna have, the majority of them aren't served by water. They're not served by sewer. So if they go off of wells and they have sewer and they've increased the density, you're degrading the water quality. I'm having trouble meeting all of the findings, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes, Commissioner Flick.
Yes, a couple questions. One, as my memory recalls that an acre is 43,560 square feet. Yet there's a minimum lot size of 17,500, which if it's half acre zoned, the minimum should be 21,780 square feet. So I'm just a little confused on the math.
So I'll let Mr. Lloyd explain the density and the minimum requirement that the Washoe County Code has.
I think this has been a point of confusion for quite a few folks over a number of years. Oh, and I'll try to speak up. Thank you. Currently, if you look at our land use table, if you look at our zoning table, you'll find that the acreages and the densities are 2 different things. For example, LDS currently, low-density suburban is a density requirement of 1 unit per acre, but the minimum lot size is 35,000 square feet. So that means anytime you split a property, one of those lots can be just under an acre at 35,000 square feet, but the other then has to make up the rest. So it's a density of 1 unit per acre. In this case, LDS 2, what Julie's taken is half of that 35,000 square feet. That's what you're seeing with that minimum lot size, but it's still a density of 2 units per acre.
But if you had several acres and that minimum density was 17,000 whatever, 500 square feet, you'd be picking up some lots.
No. You will not be picking up. We're basing it so if you have 2 acres, let's say you have LDS 2 and you have 2 acres, you cannot exceed that 2 units per acre. The most you would be able to get is 4 lots.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm getting in the weeds too much, but.
Oh no, that's an excellent question. It really is.
So, essentially, you're making a general plan amendment here, creating a new classification, which is a blanket.
I should say, it's an existing classification that exists It's referenced in our development code. It's just not, it's not identified as one of the existing allowable regulatory zones
Okay.
within those SCMAs.
So the process would be land that has this designation. They would be able to go in and apply for a zone change to build what they want. If they did not have this classification, then obviously they would have to go and request an amendment on their own and then apply for a zone change. So I'm with you. I think we need to get a more defined look, a picture of all the various areas within the county that we're affecting here. I'm not saying it's right or wrong right now. I don't know, but it's a pretty massive process. I've been through it before elsewhere, and let's face it, there's a lot of mistrust too. So if there isn't an emergency to get it done, then I think for the benefit of the public and everybody concerned, that delaying this thing and maybe putting you more, giving you more work to do to adequately describe and show us a picture throughout the county where this is going to be affected. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Fick. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Vilcek.
Thank you, Chair Donchak. Julie, I understand what you're saying, but many of my fellow commissioners and many planning staff have had a significant, they understand where I come from when I address area plans. And we have been taught and told ever since this process is that our area plans take precedence over everything else. When in the case description, it is said here for hearing, discussion, and possible action to approve a resolution initiating and adopting an amendment to the South Meadows Truckee area plan. What you have been saying is that this is just a policy change. The description says it's an amendment.
So this is Julie Olander with Planning and Building. So we are we are proposing to amend the Southwest Area Plan. So maybe I could have my little picture back up here. So we're proposing to add that low density 2 to those 4 character management areas that we have talked about. Truckee Meadows, Thomas Creek, Foothill, and Galena. So it's well, where am I at? Sorry. Do I have it there? So it's hard to see here. Maybe turn the lights down a little bit.
No, I can see it.
You can see the dark. So
F
is a dark. F is an addition. So that's what we're amending. If you took F out, that's how it is currently right now. So we are amending the Southwest area plan. We aren't making and changing anybody's zoning. We're just amending and adding this zoning option to those 4 character management areas.
So it may be semantics. But I take it at what the description is that it's an amendment to the area plan. But it's more than a policy change.
Well, we're not doing it, it is just a policy change. We're just amending to put this line in.
All right.
We're not we're not making anybody have low-density suburban 2. We're not changing anybody's zoning. We're just putting this line in. Just adding, sort of like, I don't know what example, I was explained to somebody before, it's like, right now you can have MDS, or low density, you can have a black bicycle and a white bicycle. Now we're giving you the option to have a red bicycle. You still have to go out and buy it, you still have to have the money to buy it, you still have to show you can ride the bicycle, I guess, or whatever, to address Commissioner Nelson's concerns. They're still gonna have to come back in and show that the impact, if they wanna change their zoning, if they wanna go low density 2, that they still have to show to you all that that can be accommodated in that neighborhood, that location, wherever it might be within the Southwest.
So when the South Truckee Meadows area plan was initiated, for whatever reason, low-density suburban 2 was not
It was
included.
left out. If you go to North Valleys, it's in.
I understand that, Ms. Olander. I'm talking about the current area plan.
You're correct.
And so when in South Meadows Truckee Area Plan findings, Goal 20, amendments to SWTM Area Plan will be for the purpose of further implementing the vision and character statement. And then it says, in order for the Washoe County Planning Commission to recommend the approval of any amendment, the following findings must be made. A, meaning the amendment will further implement and preserve the vision and character statement. I understand this whole process. I get it. But right now, it is not in alignment with that character statement. And then in SW.20.2, for any amendment that proposes to revise the vision and character statement, revise Goal 1 of its associated policies, the Washoe County Planning Commission must find that the Department of Community Development has conducted a series of community visioning workshops with the appropriate Citizens Advisory Board, and the result of that process, including any CAB and staff recommendations, must be included and discussed in further staff analysis. There was one neighborhood meeting that was held to ask for feedback on this. So I'm not picking on you, and I'm just taking word for word from the area plan.
No, I can appreciate that. I know those things are there. And we had 5 people that came. We talked about having another meeting. That's a challenge. We don't have, the cabs are not active for us to, present.
Well, some of the cabs are active.
Mr. Lloyd speak to that.
If I could speak to something, maybe a change of discussion, kind of a philosophical discussion to an extent. We hear constantly the frustration from numerous sources, but of course staff, in comparison with what a master plan is supposed to be and what a master plan is in other jurisdictions. It seems that, again, I don't know how we put the genie back in the bottle, but there's been this concern that our area plans, our master plan, has become far too regulatory, and it was never the intent. It's more to be a broad overview, a vision of a community, as opposed to providing development code level standards. And I feel that that's kind of what we've done to a great extent here. The question I think this Planning Commission needs to ask is whether or not it's appropriate to include another regulatory zone within those areas. I don't know that, if you go back to when the original area plans, when these were adopted, there was no such thing. These policies didn't exist. There was not such a thing as establishing a list of regulatory zones at all within the area plans. There are master plan level designations. There's urban, there's suburban, there's rural, there's commercial. And the idea is, if there is a regulatory zone that is associated with one of those master plans, then a zone change would be appropriate. We recognize that LDS2, when this area plan was adopted, didn't exist. It didn't exist in the county. It was a relatively new addition in terms of a regulatory zone. So in that regard, I don't want to call it an oversight because it didn't exist, but it was one of these things we wanted to clean it up, because since it is a suburban regulatory zone, it should fall in with the other suburban regulatory zones of LDS and MDS and HDS, but in this case, HDS would not be allowed in any of these regulatory zones. So again, the Planning Commission, it's up to your purview. It's certainly your purview to however you wish to decide on this. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of background in terms of how the area plans come about and how it's evolved over time into more of a regulatory document than I believe it was ever intended to.
And I appreciate that and respect that, Trevor, but I also I believe that we as a collective body, planning staff, elected officials, and this commission in particular, we are eroding at the public trust. And we say they have a voice in what happens in their community, and we're eroding at that. So with that, I will vote when this matter comes forward.
Chair Donchek.
Yes, Commissioner Ness.
So I just have to read from page 3 of the Southwest Truckee Meadows Area Plan. it says clearly that desired residential uses range from low-density rural at 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres to medium-density suburban at 1 dwelling unit per third acre. Clustering residential uses without increasing density is encouraged for the few remaining developable parcels in this area. This would serve to reduce the visual impact of development, preserve as much open space as possible, and decrease the cost of building and maintaining the required infrastructure. So that gives us clear direction on what the desired outcome of the zoning in this area is, and that's on page 3.
Madam Chair, I'm a little confused here. Are we going to bring this back to the board for discussion? Because right now, we're supposed to be having questions for staff. But
Right, we're still on questions with, we're still on questions with staff.
Okay.
Commissioner Phillips, did you have something more for staff?
No, I was just
Okay.
going to make a comment.
Okay. Commissioner Chesney, do you have anything for staff at this point?
I have nothing for staff, thank you.
Okay. Then at this point, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to this commission discussions.
Okay. Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Chesney.
because we do have an ongoing revision of the master plan and the area plans, I see no emergency here to move on this tonight. As a matter of fact, I can't support it at all. I cannot make the findings, frankly. I can't make 4 of the findings. And that's where I stand on this. Something just isn't right with this in my mind, and this process being pushed through ahead of an ongoing existing process that allows for a tremendous amount of public input. Contrary to Trevor's statement about area plans being too regulatory, I find that if it wasn't for the area plans, all hell would break loose in this county, worse than it has already from a development standpoint. So I have to disagree with that statement. And that's pretty much where I stand on this.
Commissioner Phillips.
I have always told my children, just because other people do it does not make it right for you to do. And I think that's for this area and this change. I've been involved either in cabs or something along that line since 2006. And during that time, I've seen a growing mistrust of the public on the decisions that are made and what is pushed down their throats. And I think we need to hold off on this. We need to know, they need to know that they can trust us to protect them.
Commissioners, any other discussion at this point? I have to say that I know that staff went through a lot on this, but I have some uncomfortable feelings personally myself in some of the making some of the findings, and that's only because I live in an area where we've had to deal with some of this going on, and so I am not comfortable. I honestly think that we possibly need to either find out the legal way of postponing it so that it comes back with the master plan, or that, like I said, I know that a lot of people sent in emails, so somebody got some notice somehow, but there's a disconnect in the community somewhere with communication and understanding in this. I'm not comfortable with it myself.
So I guess, to the chair, I would ask counsel, I think we have some options. Either we make no motion and nothing happens and it goes away.
No, it goes to the
Or we make
commissioners.
a motion and deny it or approve it. Or is there a third option to table this thing for infinity? I don't know.
The development code states that if no motion is made and seconded, it says, in this case, since no action has been taken by the commission, if it's appealed to the board, it will be heard de novo by the board. That's the Board of County Commissioners. Individual planning commissioners may comment on the application for the record, but it's not required. So if you don't make a motion, it could still be appealed and go to the Board of County Commissioners. Obviously, you have the option of making a motion to approve or to deny the request that's before you. If you table it, Trevor, there's no automatic approval with a master plan amendment, is there?
And I apologize, that I don't know. I'm not sure what the next step would be, and frankly, I'm looking at you. Is it automatically going to the county commission if it's denied? I think
No, it would have to be appealed.
It would have to be appealed, correct?
It would have to be appealed if it's denied.
I believe it would have to be appealed under any circumstance to get then, unless it's approved, of course. So if it's tabled, I think it would have, I don't know.
Mr. Spilchuk,
We'll take a quick recess if you don't mind.
Okay.
Unless you have other questions. Right.
Sarah, did you have a question?
Well, I think this is relevant, Trevor, in the sense that if we table it time certain to gather more information, because I think the community is somewhat confused as well. I mean, when it was just those, not just, but those specifically identified areas as to where this would be. So I guess that is another question. In terms of when we say this is 1.3, SW 1.7, SW 1.8, SW 1.9, so that LDS 2 is not carte blanche for the entire area plan, it's just for this. So in terms of tabling it time certain to gather, to have more clarity, frankly, for this commission as well as for the citizens, if my hand is forced tonight, I would make a motion to deny.
So in looking through the development code, I would recommend that the board make a decision, either deny, approve. I think that is the cleanest way to approach this.
Commissioners?
Commissioner Flick?
No.
Commissioner Payton, how are you?
Good.
Sorry to jump in there like that. So it's my understanding that they have a 1 per acre and a 3 per acre. They want to add a 2 per acre, and I see where staff is coming from. It's I think they're trying to say, hey, we can already do it, but they also mentioned that if somebody wanted to apply, is that they're going to have to apply to the county anyways. They haven't changed to 2 per. So if that's the case, I would think that, somebody would have to do that with a special use permit in the future anyways. So I don't see the point in approving this if they have to go back to the county anyways. And if we didn't vote to approve this, somebody still has the opportunity to apply on a special use permit, I think, with the county. No?
No, if I could. If this is not approved, if this amendment does not go through, there is no other option to get 2 units per acre. It's either sticking with 1 unit per acre or requesting MDS, which is 3 units per acre.
Got it. Okay. That's it for me.
Commissioner Nelson, you wish to speak?
It was in, it was out, it's gone now. I don't.
Are you looking for a motion? Is the chair looking for a motion?
Commissioner, are we ready for a motion?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Make a motion, Commissioner.
Commissioner Chesney moves that we deny Master Plan Amendment Case Number WMPA 22-004 Southwest Area Plan.
And the findings that you...
Yes, I certainly recommend that
you state your findings.
State which findings you couldn't make.
Oh,
And
no
whether
problem.
or not you are considering comments of the public and your considerations and anything else you're considering.
I cannot make, well, if we do a roll call vote, then we can, we'll state it at that time. So let's either vote it up, vote it down, and then in a roll call vote, we will state by commissioner what findings we can or cannot make.
Chair Donchek.
Yes.
Because this is a master plan amendment, it requires a 2/3 vote, so it will require a roll call. But I think each commissioner, as we've done in the past, has to state what findings we can or cannot make.
That would be at the roll call vote. And I'm more than glad to make them right now, but I think procedurally, we either vote it up or down, and then in the roll call vote, we state what findings we can or cannot make.
Counsel Gustafson, you're.
I haven't seen that procedure before. I've noted that usually when you're making a motion, you list the findings that you can't make, and then if someone seconds those findings
Okay.
that you can't make,
Fine.
then it goes on, and then of course you can do a roll call, and each commissioner at that point can add on to what they personally can or cannot find.
Okay, let me pull that first motion and make a new motion. I move that we deny master plan amendment case number WMPA 22-004 Southwest Area Plan, as I cannot make findings 2, 3, 4, and 5. That would be compatible with land uses, would be 2. 3 would be response to change conditions. 4 would be availability of facilities, and 5 would be desired pattern of growth.
Commissioner Nelson to second. I make different findings that I cannot make. So I cannot make finding number 1, consistency with the master plan. Finding number 3, response to change conditions. Finding number 4, availability of facilities. And finding number 5, desired pattern of growth.
Thank you, Commissioner Chesney. Commissioner Nelson? So do we each do a roll call at this point, Counsel?
Well, it's been moved and seconded, so.
It's been moved and seconded, so at this point, and we're going for denial, correct? So
That's
all of
the
those in favor?
Well, it's a roll call.
Oh, okay, so would you do roll call, please?
Commissioner Chesney?
Aye.
Commissioner Chivilicek?
I, for my cannot find findings in 1, 3, 4, and 5.
Thank you. Commissioner Donchik?
I can't find 1, 3, 4, and 5.
Commissioner Nelson?
I, 1, 3, 4, and 5.
Commissioner Payton?
I, 2, 4, and 5.
And Commissioner Phillips?
I, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Oh, I apologize. Commissioner Flick?
I'm not used to whether you guys do it here. Okay. Yeah. Go 1, 2, and 4.
Okay, Chair Donchik, that was unanimously denied for various findings.
Thank you. Motion is denied unanimously.
Good.
Chair Donchek,
Yes, Chair.
this is in full recognition that the Board of County Commissioners will probably override our denial.
Of course.
Let them do it. It's on their back.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I had to find my agenda.
It's a paper shuffle.
Yes, I'm good at paper shuffling. So next item on the agenda is item 9, Chair and Commission items. 9A, is there any future agenda items that the commission would like?
Madam Chair, can I offer one potential agenda item that I would like on the next?
Of course, Secretary Lloyd.
Would like to present to the commission the new neighborhood meeting pre-application process. If I could provide a brief presentation at the next meeting, I would like to do so.
All right, thank you. Anything else from the commissioners?
Good one.
Next on the agenda is item 9B, request for information from staff. I personally, for me to stay on top of everything, I really would like to know the plan but not yet built on a constant basis, whether it is a development that's coming before us or not. But anything that impacts an area, I would like to know what is in the future for that area already, if it hasn't been built, because I think that impacts our decisions and the public's understanding also.
So what are you asking? I'm not clear on that. Are you asking for approved unbuilt?
The maps.
Yes, the maps on a regular
and maps.
basis, whether, because even though these were not tentative maps where we normally would see it, having that information might have given us a little clarity on what some of the people were saying about, well, why are you needing to do this when there's already so many homes planned to be built that aren't built yet? So what's the rush when there's already all these developments out there that are approved? It's just something to give us a little more grounding and understanding when we're making some of these decisions that affect these areas and the residents in the areas.
And the other thing, so I went back to the Southwest Area Plan, and in the figures at the end, it shows has water, has sewer, what the arterial roads are and all of that. That was from 2010. So it's changed, right? So when we have to say that there's availability of facilities, it would be nice to see if we actually have it there currently.
Get stuck on Pyramid, you don't have it.
We're not going down that rabbit hole today.
It's a lot of work for an
We could spend hours on that rabbit hole. Okay, any other requests for information from staff at this point? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 10, directors and legal counsel items. Trevor, any report on any previous commission items at this time?
Yes, the county commission approved the master plan amendment for the rollback. These are the properties on Mayan Avenue, and that occurred in the February county commission. I don't remember which date. That's all that I have.
All right, thank you. Ms. Gustafson, any legal information or updates at this time?
Not at this time. No, thanks.
All right, thank you. Then at this point, we move into the last motion for public comment. Ladies, is there any public comment either in chamber or via Zoom at this time?
I have no public comment in chambers.
And I have no hands raised via Zoom.
All right, thank you. Then we'll close public comment. And of course, the next item is some of our favorites. A motion for adjournment, please.
Commissioner Chesney, move to adjourn.
Thank you for Commissioner Chesney. We are adjourned.